Yo, what's going on, everybody? This is Jae Grind from the Jae Grind podcast. I have a special guest with me. This man is hip hop. Is was around with the pioneer of hip hop. I'm so grateful that he's on the show. He's on the podcast. I can't tell you all the details. He's gonna do the talking. It is Sierra Dubb. Sierra Dubb, introduce yourself.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm Sierra Dubb, and yeah, I guess Joel just aged me, so I'm about 50 years old. So not exactly. I wasn't around for the pioneers of hip hop, but a little afterwards. But yes, it's great to be here, and I'm so happy that I got my man Jay Grind. This is my first podcast ever, so I'm very excited. I'm very excited, and I'm very blessed to be here, and it's been a journey. It's been a long journey. Obviously, with the help of yours truly, I've definitely found a little renaissance later on in my life. So I'm truly blessed for him and the other opportunities I've received.
I wanted to ask you something. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself when it comes to like the things that you do and like what you do.
Uh, well, as far as music is concerned, I mean, I've been a music lover all my life. I mean, obviously, I was first introduced to music in the '70s when I was born. So luckily, I had my father. He used to come home. I remember him coming home with a lot of disco records. So I was born in '75, and I remember as far back as '77, listening to so many disco records and just playing around. I was lucky that I he would leave me with this old Kenwood stereo, and I would go through all these different records he would bought. And I think that is when I first fell in love with not just music in general, but that type of music, which was a predecessor to hip hop. And ever since then, I've been hooked. And obviously, was introduced to hip hop in the early '80s, and I started probably was introduced to beat making in the late '80s, and bought my first sampler in '93, and been making beats ever since. But I didn't start taking it seriously until I met Jay Grind here, and that's when he inspired me. He saw something in me that was dormant, that was ready to be released again. And now, after decades, I'm finally taking it seriously. Because for me, it was just a hobby. I think I didn't have the confidence per se to believe I could make it a career, or at least a potential career. And I thank Jay for believing in me and letting me be who I am, and really let that music come out. So, in a nutshell, as far as music is concerned, that's been pretty much my journey.
So you said something about like the disco music, and your dad was bringing home disc music, and then you were just messing around with it. So like, what was your first thought? What was your first feeling when you was messing with the disco disc and everything like that?
Um, my first feeling, it's hard to explain. It was like magic. It was like going through another dimension. I felt like music was an escape. Growing up in the inner city in a working class area that obviously wasn't so great. I came from a household that we were very sheltered. My mother didn't want us to hang outside because she would she thought we would get into trouble. So music was an escape. It was an escape from an outside world, from a reality, from a harsh reality that sometimes I was in denial of. And I'm thankful that it was always there. And I felt, even at a young age, I felt like I wanted it to be part of my life. I wanted to do something with music. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. But when hip hop came around in the '80s, I think that sparked a movement inside me to maybe do something with the music.
Who introduced you to hip hop?
It was my sister. My sister introduced me to hip hop. I remember listening to the radio in 1981 when I was 6, and I heard Planet Rock, and I was a little bit confused. I was like, "What is this? This isn't exactly disco." And at that time, she referred to it as just rap music. So hip hop was something that was, I think, was retroactively coined probably starting like in the mid '80s, and that was my first introduction. That
So who was your favorite hip hop artist back in the day, back in the 80s?
Back in the '80s, well, obviously, the first record I ever bought was Run DMC's first album that came out in 1984. I was 9 years old, and afterwards, it was. I remember hearing Eric B. and Rakim for the first time, '86 and '87, and that really, as everyone knows, that really blew the doors off what we thought could be achieved in hip hop. That was the beginning of abstract, like an abstract flow, breaking up the conventional rapping that everybody was used to with Run DMC, and it was amazing. It was an amazing time to be in. It was just, I felt like it was almost the way that people in the '60s felt about all the burgeoning music with like the hard rock and the psychedelic music. I felt like that was my time. It was something where no matter where you went, whether it was from an apartment complex or a car with a sound system, every song was just amazing, and it was just an amazing time to be in. And so I would probably say yes, it was Run DMC, Eric B and Rakim, and then obviously Big Daddy Kane. When that came out, he pushes even further. Cool G Rap. Obviously, I fell in love with Slick Rick. That's when I got into beat making. When I heard Mona Lisa, and I actually asked. I was in the 8th grade, and I asked someone to see if they. I heard him banging the beat on the lunch table. I was so mesmerized. I asked him to just teach me the pattern really quick, and I got it, and I took off from there. And I was obsessed with music so much that once I got to high school, I pretty much forwent my studies. I couldn't concentrate in class. Everything, my whole life was just breathing, eating, thinking, and dreaming of hip hop. For better for worse, it changed my life. It changed my life for the better. It affected my studies in high school, but you know, it was, now I'm thinking it was a good sacrifice. Something that just really I couldn't control. It really engulfed my life. I really had no control over it.
So it just sounded like it was like a passion because you said like it engulfed your life, and you said Slick Rick was the reason why you started making beats.
Yeah, the drums
And
that really got me going was hearing those drums.
yeah, so like what could you tell the audience like your sound, like what would your sound be like just as a DJ who's making beats?
Uh, yeah, as a producer, I would probably say my main influence obviously was Marley Marl. He was the first one to sample actual live acoustic drum breaks from the record. He did it accidentally, and I would say he laid the foundation. He's definitely the father of modern hip hop production. And then afterwards, it was DJ Premier. DJ Premier took what Marley Marl built, and he made it more more aggressive, picking out different samples. And after that, I believe it was Pete Rock, Large Professor, and of course, what really I think the cherry on top was when the RZA came out with Wu Tang, late '92 and '93. That is when my beat making really took off when I heard that. So obviously, there's lots of influences. We're all influenced by a lot of people, but it's in the process where you find your own sound. Like for example, you know how you listen to a lot of raps and you we first start emulating, but it's that process where we start finding out who we are and we start inadvertently making our own sound. And I think I've come to the point where I believe I have a unique sound. It's it's definitely influenced by the people that came before me, but everyone knows a signature sound. Like everyone knows when they're hearing a RZA beat or a beat from Large Professor or Q-Tip or Marley Marl. They know. And I hope that maybe I'm putting that that the particular style that people can hopefully one day recognize off the bat.
I wanted to ask you something like just as an engineer, as you know, when you engineer produce your music, like what do you want people to know Sierra Dubb for?
Uh, it's a good question. I would probably say I would want people to know that I'm just like a vessel, more like a tool. I'm using, obviously, I incorporate samples. I want people to know that there is a lot of good music out there. There's a lot of great producers, great rappers, obviously, as you know, such as yourself, that we're in the underground and we just want to be heard. We want to be heard, not for not for fame and fortune, but we want to be part of this big canvas that we call life, and we want to add to all that creativity. And we want people to hear the music and just feel where it comes from, and hearing it being reinterpreted by a different person. And that's the beauty of the modern age with the invention of the internet. Now we get to hear people that haven't been or don't have the means to be heard. And I would like to add to that. I would like to add to that and make my mark. As cliche as that sounds, I think we're all here to make our mark.
So I wanted to ask you like what are the pros and cons to being a producer or engineer when you're making beats and things like that?
Um, well, the first pro is obviously you're having fun. It's something you ask yourself, even if I didn't get paid to do it, I still do it. The big con is self doubt and not allowing yourself to kind of let go and be creative. Sometimes I find myself forcing myself to try to make a hit or a banger, and that's not. I don't think that's the way we should go through. We're not. I don't think we should go in forcing ourselves that we have to be the next big thing. It's learning to really let go and figure out when is the right time to step in the studio and also step away when you feel like you have a creative block, especially when I'm just listening to music and hopefully I find like a virgin sample no one has ever used, and trying to challenge myself to see what I can do with that sample. So I would say pretty much those are the pros and cons. It's fun, but at the same time it's one of those things where you can't take it too seriously, if you know what I mean.
Mm. I wanted to ask you. You said something about being creative. Like, where do you find your space to be creative? Like, what do you do to get creative? Like, what gets you to that point, that zone, that mode?
I would probably say listening to a lot of music. I would probably say, thankfully now we have YouTube, and you have millions of people who are contributing and there's uploading stuff that we've never heard before because it's impossible. No one person can hear every song that's ever been recorded. We're, and we're continuing to record new music. I think just being alone in my living room. I mean, I'm a family man. I'm married and I have a child, but I feel lucky that they give me that space to be in myself in the living room and just listening to new music and trying to curate new songs and just getting lost. I think it's just getting lost in in a space where eventually you're gonna find yourself. You're gonna some idea is gonna spark.
Mm. It's funny you said what was the difference between when you wasn't married with kids and then now that you have a wife and kids, like how does that affect you as a producer, as an engineer?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. Obviously, I really thought it was going to impede my production, and it hasn't. Luckily, I'm in a career where I can make decent money, where I don't have to work a lot. So I do have that. I do have that. I still have that time, but unfortunately, sometimes I feel like when I'm getting lost in my music and I'm not paying attention to my daughter because I'm mostly a stay-at-home dad. Um, I find the guilt. When it was just me, I didn't feel guilty. It was just me by myself when I was single. Now, when I find myself having fun and I'm playing around with let's say with my sequencer or sampler, I have I then I feel guilty. It's been 2 3 hours and I haven't played with my daughter, and I feel like okay, that's time that I'm never going to get back. But at the same time, I have to forgive myself and realize that I need time for myself. So it's a tricky tightrope to walk. It's allowing yourself to as we spoke about before, allowing ourselves to give ourselves the time to be us, because we are taking care of people. We may be taking care of our parents. We're taking care of a spouse or a child, or let's say with personal training, you're taking care of a client. But who's taking care of us? We have to be okay with allowing ourselves to have the time to be with our passion.
Mm. It's funny you said something about passion. Like, what do you think? As a producer, as an engineer, you make your own beats, and I'm sure you, like you say, you listen to other beats. I'm sure you see other people. Like, what has been lost in the hip hop culture when it came to producing? Do you feel like the passion is lost?
Um, Another good question. I have to be careful with how I answer, because you know usually people from my age, my generation, it'll come out as something negative toward the younger generation, and I do like what the younger generation is doing. I do. Um, I mean, obviously, I really don't listen to trap and drill, but I can appreciate what producers are doing now. I mean, I come from an older generation that I use hardware, not software, and I use mostly samples. And obviously, the music changed when people realized that we had to move away from samples because we can either get sued or wind up losing the rights to the music. So a lot of it now is more techno based, as opposed to sampling something that's acoustic based. But I think what really changed it was, I think, when the South started taking over in the late '90s. I think it's interesting. By the time the early to mid '90s came around, we thought we were done with the TR-808, and I believe it was Manny Fresh who was down um, with the that crew in Atlanta. I think it was they were called the Cash Money Crew. That's where Lil Wayne started off. He
Mm.
went into I think he went into a pawn shop, and he didn't really know what to buy, so he bought an old TR-808, started messing with it, and he inadvertently brought back an old sound that people thought we were done with. And it's interesting how sometimes by accident something can spark a movement. And I have to admit, I was a little surprised and maybe a little jealous that people forgot about acoustic boom bap sample based hardware hip hop, and now we're moving into software techno based hip hop. But it's an evolution. I can't be a hypocrite, because I'm sure when producers started sampling in the late '90s, I'm sure the older generation were upset at us. Like, like the Grandmaster Flash, and I mean they incorporated samples when they were DJing, but a lot of it, some of it started with like real instrumentation. So I can't be a hypocrite. It's supposed to flourish, but what's beautiful now, we know that sample based music is coming back. I mean, it never really left. It's coming back into the forefront. Obviously, now in New York City, I see a lot of kids 1/3 my age wearing baggy jeans. I love that. I think that's incredible. It makes me think I'm in the '90s again. And boom bap is coming back, but I think we can have a space where things like trap and drill can live in harmony, and everyone will have more choices. Everyone will have more choices, and hopefully there'll be harmony and not so much division in the hip hop community.
Mm. That's a great answer. I wanted to ask you, as a producer, this was a great question. Like, so because you know that, because you have a certain sound, where can people find your beats? Where can people buy your beats? Where can people, say, hey, I want to work with you, or things like that. And I wanted to actually, yeah, I mean, you can answer that, and then I'll ask you another one.
Sure. Yeah, so you can find me in SoundCloud. I'm on Sierra Dubb at SoundCloud, Instagram. I'm on Sierra Dubb Sound at Instagram, and I'm also on Audius. Audius is a new platform. It's a decentralized platform. I'm there at Sierra Dubb. I don't have a BeatStars like account. I'm in the middle of getting my own website, but I want to see what the feedback is now. I want to see if I, as of now, you can contact me in those three platforms. When I start getting a correspondence, I would probably definitely start making my own website. So that should be in the near future.
Awesome. So that I wanted to ask you, like, has any artist ever, reached out and said, I want to, make certain beats with you, or like, what was the support looking like when you were releasing your beats?
So the first one of the first beats I officially sold was this gentleman in Minnesota, and now another one is in L.A. So it's interesting, right? It's interesting how 30 years ago we couldn't do this. We couldn't correspond through the internet, but I've had people that want to work with me. I have a rapper from Atlanta. I just sent him some MP3s. I also have a female um, in LA. She is looking to. I sent her some MP3s. She's finishing out her album. I also have someone in Minnesota. He is. He's looking to possibly buy some more beats, and it's growing. The you know the interest is there, but I think it's my part. I have to do a little more promoting. So slowly but surely, it's happening.
So, like, what would you think, like, for your beats? Like, what's the age range in your clientele when it comes to, like, your music, your beats? Sorry.
As of now, I would probably say the age range is about. It looks as of now probably mid 30s to mid 40s, around there.
Okay. I wanted to ask you, like, say a young and upcoming producer, beat maker that makes beats. What advice would you give him or her?
Oh, the advice I would give to them is definitely, if you really love what you do, if you really love what you do, and you really feel you have like you really have a space in this field, please don't give up. Don't give up. Just keep working hard. Again, it sounds cliche. Everyone has heard it, but the harder you work, the more the universe will help you. I've seen it so many times. If Just keep grinding, keep putting the work out, promote it, and I promise you, it'll happen. You just have to stick with it. It'll definitely happen.
What would you tell yourself if you saw yourself at 25 to 27, 28? What would you tell yourself as a
I would have told myself to definitely get back into the music, because, like I said, it's something that I stopped doing around that time, and I didn't get back into it until later on in life. I would have told him not to give up. I think it was definitely, I believe maybe I've had issues with confidence and self-esteem. We all believe that someone else can do it, but not us. Yeah, I would have definitely had a long talk with him, and had a heart to heart, and tell him that it's really not about confidence and self-esteem. It's just about doing what you love and just never stopping. And that's the irony. The irony is that when you are not looking for fame and fortune, it comes to you. When we're looking for fame and fortune, it's not coming for us. I believe that's the way the universe works. It's
you
so
know,
much.
it's something you keep saying, and I want to ask you, like, do you believe that a lot of young producers or engineers, or even including yourself at that time, were chasing fame?
To start out, um, no. But what's interesting is, um, Fat Joe says something very interesting, because I remember the first time I saw Fat Joe was Public Access around 1991, before he came out with his album. I really liked him. He was a great rapper. He is a great rapper, and he was down with DITC. Obviously, Diamond D produced his first album. He said something very interesting in an interview. He said, I love doing music for the street and these street bangers, but you know what? I want to make money. And that's when he started becoming very mainstream with songs like Lean Back. And it's hard, right? It's tough because we do what we love, but at the same time, we do want to make money. And you can't knock anyone for wanting to be a millionaire. I mean, who hasn't dreamed to be a millionaire? Who hasn't dreamed of of wanting to be a millionaire? And it's tough because I guess for him, he loves that old school hardcore hip hop, but he knew a song like Lean Back, which he felt is still has the spirits of the street, is something that could, be number one on the billboard and make him a lot of money. And I guess it's up to the producer or the rapper. It's what they want. If somebody just wants to make money, that's okay. That's totally fine. You know, I don't. It's they're not selling out per se, because I mean, who doesn't want to get rich? Who doesn't want to, especially if you're trying to support a family? It's really about what you want. It's if you can mix both of them, that's great. Sometimes it doesn't happen,
Hmm.
So I think that that's that's one of the dilemmas that we face. Are we doing this because we really love it, or do we really want to make music from it? And that's everyone's individual choice that they have to make.
Hmm. So I wanted to ask you, like now, I know we talked about a lot about producing and engineering, but like what are the 4 or 5 characteristics of a producer that would say, look, I want to work with him or I want to teach him or things like that, that will be workable towards you?
You mean somebody that wants to teach me, or if I
No,
teach
no, no.
somebody?
Like if you teach somebody, say if like, they wanted to learn from you, like what are the 5 characteristics that would stand out to you for you to want to teach them? You know what I mean?
About producing?
Yeah.
I would probably say, number one, follow your heart. Figure out what you like. It could be, it could be boom bap, it could be trap, it could be drill, or it could be, you could invent a new genre. I hear now that, I see now people are sampling, or using, like heavy metal and or grunge, and that's interesting. I'm liking it. I think it's first and foremost what sounds good to you, because you're the one that's producing what sounds good to you. Don't worry about what other people think about it. If you really like it, you'll find an audience. You'll find an audience. I mean, you can show it to other people. I mean, if you're open enough to show this to other people and be open to critique, I like this. Maybe you should take this out. Maybe you should add this. I don't really like that. If you're open to critique, and now you want to show this to the masses, you don't want it just to be a hobby. You want to see what you can do with it as far as a career. Definitely ask for advice. Show it to friends, family members. Throw it out there on social media and see what type of reaction you get.
Mm. Okay. What are what are your what's like your recent beats that you made? What's something that inspires you now to continue going as a producer and a beat maker engineer?
Um, I'd probably say, for example, last night we had a performance and getting feedback from new people, that really inspires me. When people say that, keeps me going. I want to hear, I want to know. I think we know that we're on the right path. Everybody wants affirmation. It's okay to want affirmation and say, okay, that keeps us going. Because, like I said, if you're a person like me who sometimes has issues or had issues with confidence or self-esteem, or not believing in oneself, that really helps, because sometimes you have to figure out what's real and what's in your mind. And now I'm realizing that a lot of that self-doubt was in my mind. It wasn't something that was being perceived from the outside world.
Mm. So like what that now that you're in a different era in a different time, what is music doing for you now? Is it therapeutic? Is it just a way to just cope? Like what is music doing for you now?
I think it's all above. I think you hit it right on the nail. It's for me, it's therapeutic. It is a coping mechanism. It is an escape. And now for me, it's a religion. It's like God. I realize that music is vibration, right? And now we're all starting to learn from the top scientists that the whole universe is beyond the solid physical. It's vibration, it's sound. And I think music is something that we all need. It's something that we all need, and I can't imagine my life without music. Even if I couldn't create music, I can't imagine not listening to it and just hearing different sounds, listening to different genres from different eras. It's amazing. Like I said, we're very lucky that we're living in this day and age with internet where you don't have to buy anything. You just go on YouTube, or at least for me, I like going on YouTube because there's so many people that upload different types of music that that we haven't heard. I mean, some people can go on whatever you're used to, whatever is better for you, Spotify or SoundCloud if you want to listen to new artists. For me, my go-to is YouTube. I love YouTube because I feel like, ironically, there's more music there, even though YouTube is more video based. There's just it's this. I feel like it's this infinite gold mine. It's amazing. I don't know what I do without it. I hope some people agree with me, but that's how I feel.
What is your what is your step by step process in making a beat?
My step by step process is obviously finding that sample that I really like. I really want to work with, and first I play the sample and I see what I want to do with it, and obviously I want to have my own spin. I just don't want to play the loop, right? Because you want to add your signature sound. So I like cutting it up. I have my S2400, which is a spiritual successor to the SP1200. So you can easily chop it up, and I like using that as a keyboard and getting different sounds and adding a beat, listening to a lot of old records. Still have my record collection of different drum breaks. It doesn't necessarily have to be from the past. I've heard modern drum breaks that are amazing. Some people buy drum packs and picking not just because a drum break can fit a loop doesn't necessarily mean it means it fits the theme. It's weird. It's kind of like it's almost like a nerdy thing where you're picking the right. I've got hours trying to pick the right uh, kick drum, the right snare drum, the right hi hat or tom tom. I've gone hours just nitpicking on things that people would probably overlook. It's not just any beat can go on it. It has to match the theme. What type of decay, what type of attack it has on it. There's a lot of things that go into it, and it's interesting. I once heard an interview with Ninth Wonder, and he said a lot of people think that sample based hip hop is easy. It's not easy. It's very hard. It's very hard because you're starting with someone else's music, but you have to make it your own. You have to make it your own, um, and you have to make it fit with other things you're trying to put into it. Most of the time, it doesn't work. And it, I thought, at a time, I think the reason why I stopped, this goes back to your previous question. I think the reason why I stopped in the past, because I thought I wasn't being a real musician. I was like, well, all am I doing was just what every producer did in the 90s, right? Was just, find a melody, loop it in whatever bars you wanted, and just finding a drum break and putting it together. After a while, I felt that was boring. Then we found out, what if we cut up the sample, chop it up, replay it into an original melody, and what if we did the same thing with the drum break? We cut up the different hits, and then we make our own patterns, and then you feel like, okay, this is mine. This is starting now. This was something that belonged to somebody else. Now it's starting to belong to me, and that's usually the process I go through. I mean, obviously, I didn't invent the process. That's something that goes back to like Marley Marr and DJ Premier. But I love the fact how producers now are trying to push that sound. How far can we push the limitations of hardware? Because I love working with hardware because it's limited. Because there's only so much you can do with hardware. I want to see how far can I push this machine. DAWs are great. I've tried working in a DAW, but the thing with me is that the DAW, there's so many options that my brain shuts down. That's the way I work. And if you're a producer that works with DAW, hey, that's great. More power to you, because I can't do it. For some reason, my mind shuts down because it's like you're a kid in a candy store. You don't know what to pick. I like being limited to a certain amount of options where I can only do this because that's how I I work. And a lot of producers like DJ Premier has said the same thing. I'm basically lifting what he said in an interview, which I
Mm,
agreed with. So that's pretty much my process.
wow. So I gotta cut it to you, man. You on the Jay Grind podcast, so I gotta ask you this question: have you
Sure.
heard Jay Grind's music?
Oh my God. Well, so everyone listening out there, I can go days, talking about Jay Grind. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be really honest. I never ever ever thought, not in a million. I thought in a million lifetimes, I never thought I'd meet someone like Joel Jay Grind. It's not just his personality, but his music. The first time I heard him rap, I to say I was blown away is an understatement. I really the way he raps, the way, I'm gonna be honest. I I'm not just saying this that we're friends. You are the best freestyler I've ever heard, and I've heard a lot of people freestyle. I've heard people freestyle before you were born, and I've never seen anyone freestyle like you. Um, it's just it's just something where I thought it was dead. And I remember when I first met you, you were in your early 20s and you were freestyling like people were doing in the 90s. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I thought it was in a dream. And I couldn't believe I had this opportunity to not just to get to know you, we became friends. And I felt honored that you rapped on one of my tracks. For me that would probably be the greatest achievement of my life when we made Only Time Will Tell, because that is a song I keep listening to over and over again. I've listened to it 1,000 times, and every time I hear it, it's like listening to it for the first time. His For anyone out there listening to this podcast, Jay Grind, he is so cryptic with his words, where you won't get it the first time, the second time you listen to it, and you'll get something new, and that's hard to say. Usually, people will get tired of listening to a song. They'll stop at a certain amount of plays. You'll it's this infinite well. You're always going to get something more, more, more. You're going to get more out of it, and it's not just that song. Every song, people are born with a gift. I mean, what can we say? Some people are born with it. Some people master it on their own. I think it's just something you were born with. So I really hope. No, I know that this is going to take you to even higher places. And uh, you know, I I want to. I just want to see. I want to see how where this goes. So I'm excited, very excited.
So only time will tell was something that we did make, and it was really good. So what was the process in only time will tell when you made that beat, and what and why did the words stand out to you and things like that?
Well, interesting enough, the process started exactly 20 years ago. So long story short, um, I read this article in the New York Times about a new Korean movie called Taegugi with a person called Jang Dong Gun. And I remember I was going out with my wife then, and we saw the movie, we loved it, and then I loved his movie so much that I wanted to see his other movies. There was a movie called Friend that came out in 2001 that takes place in the early 80s, and I heard the soundtrack to to this song that I'm not going to say. Well, I probably already gave it away if you know the movie. And I was floored when I listened to the first piano bar. It blew me away. I knew that it was something that really touched my soul, and I didn't start working with it until I had bought my MPC 1000 pretty late in 2000 2013, and that was the first thing I went back to sample, and it was just magic. It was magic. I felt like something was working through me, and I had no idea somebody was gonna like it. So when you and I became friends, you went through my SoundCloud and you loved the track, and you said you wanted to rap over it. And what was amazing, what I couldn't believe, obviously, I'm going to be honest, kind of embarrassing. I cried when I first heard it. I literally cried because I couldn't believe how you were able to match the spirit and the theme of the original song. It's I love the song because it's so spiritual, and I loved your lyrics because your lyrics they're so gospel. I love gospel music. People, it's an example of how can someone make gospel music while rapping. Well, that's a perfect example. Maybe it's the only example. And like I said, I was completely floored. It's such that song stands out mostly because of your lyrics. It really stands out. You can't really compare it to anything that's come out before or will come out after. You can't compare it. You know, it's one of those things that maybe it won't get recognized now, but who knows? Maybe when we're long gone, 50 years from now, somebody will pick it up, and who knows? Maybe it'll be number one Billboard. Who knows in the year 2075? If we're still listening to music that way. But I'm just happy, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe how did the stars align for this to happen. I'm still shocked. I'm very shocked, and now I'm believing in divine intervention. I'm starting to believe that now. So for me, only time will tell is something that I hold special in my heart. Well, it will always be. I don't know if it will be my magnum opus, but more so because you rapped over it, and I really love it. And I really want everyone to hear it because it's such a mood lifter. It's one of those things that I think can literally save souls.
Oh man, so but before we go, man, Sierra Dubb, let everybody know where they could find you again.
So again, I'm at Instagram. I'm at Sierra Dub Sound at Instagram. I'm on Sierra Dub at SoundCloud, and I'm on Sierra Dub on Arts.
Guys, Sierra Dubb, it was a pleasure. You have a wealth of knowledge. It was awesome, and I want to say thank you for everything that you said.
Thank
That
you.
song, no,
Thank
that song was amazing. It was good. Guys, make sure to follow him, check him out, hit his DM, get beats. It's all online. Trust me, it's authentic. It's something you don't hear every day, and it's something that we all need. We need to hear something that's real, and that touches the soul because that's what music is about. So you already know y'all follow Sierra Dubb. This is the Jae Grind on the Jae Grind podcast. BX, we out.
thank you, everyone. Okay, appreciate it. Take care.